Hey, it's Citizen Cosmos. We are Sergeant Anna and we discover Cosmos by chatting with awesome people from various teams within the Cosmos ecosystem and the community. Join us if you are curious how dreams and ambitions become code.
Hey everyone, hey guys, and today we have a special episode. Usually we talk to one guest. Today first of all we talk to a few guests, and second we've invited some of the guys from ChainSafe, which is a firm that specializes in Web3 infrastructure and making Aragon Chain. And we have Jorge as well from Aragon, who will let us a little bit on the insight what is Aragon Chain, how it's going to connect to Cosmos. So I'm not really sure how I should introduce you guys, so maybe I will just ask each one of you to introduce yourself briefly and say what you're doing and how is what you guys doing has to do with Cosmos.
Hi, thanks for having me. Super glad to be here. My name is Jorge. I'm one of the co-founders of the Aragon project. The project was started way back in 2016 with the idea of giving people tools to organize without regard for borders or any limitations. At the beginning, and right now we have a system that allows people to create DAOs on Ethereum. So that is decentralized autonomous organizations that people create for all sorts of purposes, from small groups to totally internet native communities. And we got introduced to the Cosmos world when we were looking for options for us to build our own chain, concerned especially by scalability issues with Ethereum, and we worked with ChainSafe to analyze what the best options for building our own chain were, and building the chain on Cosmos SDK with the Ethermint was the best path forward that we saw. So yeah, super excited to be building this.
Thanks. Aidan, do you want to tell us a little bit about ChainSafe in general, maybe? Because, I mean, I've looked at your GitHub, guys. It's not like I've heard about you yesterday, or Aragon to that matter, but you guys have a very impressive GitHub, a very impressive list of clients there, including different Web3 services and infrastructure. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and what you guys doing for Aragon and how you guys planning to make that bridge.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting us to be here. It's such a pleasure to talk about this incredible project, and just to kind of put it into context, we very seriously take the mission of creating the infrastructure for Web3. And that means for us building technologies that will lead to the vision for decentralized and distributed organizations, infrastructure, and the internet really as a whole, as our core value for why we get up every day. And so at ChainSafe, we're a 40-person blockchain research and development firm where that is what we do. And that mostly looks like building blockchains. And we're currently contributing to ETH 2.0, of course the Cosmos ecosystem with Ethermint. We're building an implementation of the Polkadot host, as well as working on some ETC work. And the latest project we started working on is a Rust implementation of Filecoin. And I guess just to go backwards, personally, why Ethereum got me so excited was the capacity to codify human organization. Bitcoin was cool, but Ethereum was powerful. And so to be working on a project like this, one that truly solves the problems that got me into the space in the first place, is a real honor and a really exciting one, because together I think we're going to build something extremely powerful and extremely revolutionary.
So my name's Colin Schwartz. I've been working with ChainSafe for about 2 years now, and primarily within the capacity of a project manager. And I have the honor to be working on some really exciting projects right now. One of them is Lodestar, our ETH 2.0 implementation in TypeScript. I work on some internal projects as well. And then what's really been getting me most excited recently is, of course, Aragon Chain. So it's been really an honor and a privilege to be able to have worked on this right from the beginning in last fall all the way up to what we've accomplished to the present. And just being able to work with some of the Aragon team and get more familiar with their awesome software and their really incredible vision has been really inspiring. And it's great to be here now with all of you.
And I've read, I don't remember when it was. I think this was back in November when Aragon released, I think it was on one of the blogs of Aragon, and maybe Jorge can correct me here. It was a post you guys released talking about how you hired ChainSafe, if I'm correct, to decide what is better for Aragon Chain, Polkadot, or Cosmos. Am I correct, or am I mixing up something here? It was November, right?
Yeah, I think it was in October. It was actually during DEF CON in Japan. How the process worked is we started working closely with ChainSafe around during the summer, and they basically produced a report analyzing like what the best possible technology was for the things that we wanted to get out of a blockchain. And then it was in October when they prepared their proposal for the Aragon network.
Yeah, I mean, our kind of aim is to be a technically objective organization, and I believe there were 6 questions that we were tasked with answering, and the questions themselves led to the decision, as opposed to us coming and saying, hey, you should do this explicitly. And so it was a real treat to be able to kind of go and produce this document that was able to kind of contrast the two things and put more out there in terms of information, as opposed to kind of the normal narrative of going and saying, hey, this is better, and not even kind of explaining or even coming to that decision, because there's never really a better solution as much as there is the best one for the kind of given circumstances and time. So it was a real pleasure to work on that document and to see where it's led to now.
When you guys made the document, did you always, as soon as you started making that investigation or evaluation, did you know that you were going to go with Cosmos, or were there some decisions or some metrics that when you were evaluating between Polka and Cosmos that made you think, okay, maybe this is better suited for Polka, or let's say consensus-wise or security, or whatever, any metrics at all?
So one of the big things here is that multiple people were working on this report that are directly working on those protocols. So it's not as if one person with a specific bias worked on it, and it was rather kind of answering these questions that led to the decision. And so one of like the big factors was EVM compatibility and being able to bootstrap a chain as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible, taking advantage of all the incredible work the Aragon team has been producing over the past few years. And so that was, I would say, kind of one of the big metrics or whatever features that were truly important. But it's important to note that, again, we had a bunch of different people working on this report that work across the different projects. And so it's not as if we came in looking to kind of have the answer fit our cognitive bias, as opposed to getting people to answer these questions that are working on these protocols and then seeing what comes after that.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Colin Schwartz. I've been working with ChainSafe for about 2 years now, primarily within the capacity of project manager. I have the honor of the exciting projects right now. One of them is Lodestar, our E2.0 implementation in TypeScript as well. And then what's really been getting me most excited recently is, of course, Aragon Chain. So it's been really an honor and a privilege to have worked on this right from the beginning in fall all the way up to what we've accomplished to the present, and to work with some of the Aragon team and get more familiar with their awesome software, and their really incredible vision has been really inspiring, and it's great to be here now.
Like talking about going back to the document, the evaluation that you guys did, which again was very impressive. Did you participate in that as well, Colin? I'm not sure what your tasks are as a PM, so like
I was there within like an editor's capacity. I have a communications background as well, so I was definitely not doing the technical research, but I did take part in that process. And I would just say, sort of to reiterate, Aidan, it was very much, we tried to be as objective as possible and simply present the various pros and cons of all of the various choices based on the questions presented to us from Aragon. And then, we really let them make the final decision there based on the research that we did.
Can I start asking the controversial questions? Yeah, okay. Maybe my question more addressed to Jorge. When you feel that Ethereum is not enough for your project and you decided, okay, we have to move on and find something else for our project, how would that happen?
Yeah, so that was kind of a process of things that we had been seeing, and especially came out to doing running some numbers in terms of the growth that Aragon alone could have, what the capacity of the Ethereum network was, and also taking into account that there would be other things running on Ethereum that would also gain a lot in popularity and use. That was something that made us feel like, by just being 100% on Ethereum One, that there was like kind of like this glass ceiling to how much growth we would be having. There's also the fact that the gas market, we had seen some indications of it going crazy, but that's something that deeply concerned us in terms of one, or product being like very, very expensive to use for users, and two, something that is, even so, that could be even more worrying. It's like not being able to know how expensive our product is to use. And right now we're seeing this past couple of days kind of like this playing out in real time, with gas prices going through the roof. A team member said that yesterday he had spent $30 interacting with Aragon DAOs, and it is something that if he had done it last week, he would have been like maybe 5 or maximum, right? And that's something that is kind of in the nature of Ethereum, in which like you have kind of this auction or this race for block space, and the moment that is full, the prices they just have massive growth. So that was something also very worrying that we could see happening, and it's happened a bunch of times this week for not very known reasons, like a couple months ago around the Black Thursday events, where it went absolutely bananas as people were running to do trades as everything was crashing. So those were two of the main concerns that made us start thinking about this. And then there's also the aspect of ownership and agency, even with the protocol, as with so many stakeholders and people building it as Ethereum. It's possible that some decisions that get made for the well-being of the entire protocol end up hurting someone in particular, and being able to have control and being able to govern your chain, it's like makes that harder or impossible to happen. With this, we had this incident last year with the Istanbul hard fork, where we had these smart contracts that we use for all our contracts, which are these proxies that enable upgradability, and they're kind of the only part of our system that cannot be upgraded. An upgrade repricing that happened in the hard fork, some of these contracts kind of broke. We had to change them, and like people that really needed them fixed. It's like not as if they completely stopped working, but like an important feature stopped working in them, and it was a little bit of a mess having to do that. And that's kind of an example of protocol rules changing under you and not being able to do anything, and users being damaged by that. And with this, like as I've said multiple times, I think that decision that Ethereum core developers made was like absolutely the right call, and like it was like a needed change. But the fact that some of these things happen and there's just like nothing that you can do and your things can break makes it difficult to be reliant just on that platform.
Yeah, make a lot of sense. Yeah, and by the way, I understand why you are so involved in that project, because now you put everything so correct and polite way. Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, I think more, I don't know, probably Aidan or Colin. I'm not sure. Maybe Jorge can answer as well. Maybe going more to the technical side about what is Aragon Chain, because I know that Aragon Chain is gonna. I know, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna ask you guys, and then you can explain it, because it will sound much better from your words than from mine. So maybe you can explain a little bit, how does Ethermit, Aragon Chain, and Aragon Ethereum, how are they gonna work together? How is it gonna shape a single puzzle, and how is that puzzle gonna look for the end user, or maybe how it might look for the end user?
I can start with the high level, and then Colin and Aidan can go a little bit more into details. So this is like something very important. Aragon Chain will be another environment for running the Aragon system. So that is like deploying DAOs, like managing DAOs, like running these communities. Right now, that can only be done on Ethereum, and Aragon Chain will be this other option for people. So in that sense, it's important that the DAOs on Ethereum and DAOs on Aragon Chain can communicate. So there's going to be a bridge using ChainSafe's Change bridge between Ethereum mainnet and Aragon Chain that will allow to transfer assets and also do cross-chain agent transactions. So that could allow like a DAO to be running on one chain, but be able to have interactions and have actions on the other chain. So that's kind of the high level. Aragon will still be running on Ethereum, and being able to do it on Aragon Chain will be another environment.
I can build on what Jorge is saying. Yeah, so basically under the hood, there are a lot of different processes and various different pieces of software that have been brought together here. Obviously, there's the Cosmos core stack, and then there's Ethermint, which has been built on top of that. And then we've done some modifications to actually make that software more optimized for the Aragon contracts, the Aragon apps, the Aragon test suites. So there are a lot of different parts that have come together in this project, but our goal is that from an end user perspective, the environment will be very, very similar to how it is currently on Ethereum, so that users who are already familiar with Aragon apps, DAOs, etc., will be able to seamlessly deploy and build new things on Aragon Chain without having too much overhead or without having to learn any new systems. And then the bridge aspect is also a really fascinating piece of this. The fact that we have this two-way chain bridge that is capable not only of passing value back and forth, but of arbitrary messages, opens up a lot of really interesting use cases in terms of how different DAOs can interact between Ethereum. Sorry, the bridge is actually multi-chain, not just two-way. So two ways between these two networks, but you can, endless integrations are possible. But yeah, it just like really being able to see what is possible between different DAOs, and also potentially using Aragon Court on Ethereum and having that be able to trigger actions on Ethermint. It's a really exciting area that we're still exploring, and we hope to see a lot of sort of augmentation to the current functionality come out of that.
Yeah, that is Aragon Court is definitely something I'm quite excited to be able to see how it will work in cross-chain functionality.
I'm going to provide some choice for some moment for end users what kind of chain they're going to choose for this kind of DAO, because obviously some users already create some DAO using Ethereum network. So how that will happen?
I mean, I will build up on that question. Will there be a difference at the end of the day? Obviously, those are two different environments and connected via a bridge. Will there be a difference for anyone choosing Cosmos, whether he wants to build a DAO on Cosmos or a DAO on Ethereum using Aragon?
I think a really a big differentiator would be like the amount of interaction that these DAOs need to have with other things running on Ethereum. So, for example, there are Aragon DAOs that are governing Ethereum protocols, for example, Decentraland, and they're able to do that directly. They're running their DAO, and the DAO call administrative functions on the Decentraland protocol, or other DAOs that are like UniDAO that are heavily interacting with other DeFi protocols. So those are things that, even if there's the ability to do things across the bridge, that they might decide to stay on Ethereum, even if it's like more expensive to use and it can have some issues. But for other things, for other communities that are kind of like self-contained communities or that interact with other Aragon DAO communities, for those, Aragon Chain will probably be the better. Again, this will be up to the users to decide.
A reason I'm asking, because I don't want to again like pull the quilt over, but what we do is we already sort of like we have a DAO on Aragon, and we are building on Cosmos. And when we first heard about it, like in our project, and I don't want to again like talk too much about this, but we were at first confused, and then we were excited, and then we were confused again, and we got excited again. But at the end of the day, I think it's really cool that you guys will provide those instruments, because, for example, right now we've already built some instruments that allow people to use our application, which is on using Cosmos SDK, but use the tools that we build using Aragon DAO on our app via some of the connections we made by ourselves. And it's a little bit confusing right now, but this is why I'm personally really excited for all of this to like happen, whether it is gonna take a year or whatever, and see. I mean, the only reason we decided to go with two different projects at the beginning was because there was no way to connect, to make it, on one chain. So yeah, anyways, without like going on too much what we do and then pulling the quilt over, maybe I do have a question for Aidan, like in terms of the technical aspect of things, and maybe you can talk a little bit about how it's all gonna work in terms of Ethermint and Aragon Chain itself and the bridge, I mean, that is behind all that.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the kind of core things here is that there needed to be a capacity to basically be able to come to a conclusion on something in one chain and then execute it on another chain. And so allowing for, you could think of it as a much more reduced cost way of going ahead with certain operations and then being able to potentially finalize that on Ethereum, or even, for example, bring something to Aragon Court. So there's a lot of potential for functionality, and the Aragon agent kind of makes that very much possible. And so, yeah, I mean, we're really excited about more than just token transfers and the capacity to really take advantage of cross-chain functionality in a way that allows for each side to take advantage of its own kind of value proposition.
A good question, I think, that arises from what you said in terms, obviously, of data transfer and generally, and Jorge already mentioned Aragon Court. Are there any other cases you guys can think of currently? And I know, obviously, in the future, there are so many cases that I can imagine with protocol transfer, but obviously you guys said token transfer, obviously you said Aragon Court, obviously you guys said DAOs that make decisions in terms of governance on at one place and they happen at the other chain. Are there any other cases you guys can think of right now in terms of data transfer that might be imaginable or useful?
Yeah, I think this getting the interactions for this main two. One is like being able to have DAOs that are kind of split between the two chains and can make decisions on one and act on the other, and then interacting with Aragon Core, getting those interactions to work really well, where the focus is. But as you were saying, there could be these endless possibilities in the future.
By having integrations across so many different blockchains, we also bring out the possibility to have those different blockchains transferring assets and transferring lots of different things. I mean, there's so many zones and parachains with incredible use cases that can now interact with Aragon DAOs. So there are so many use cases, and it's really about making those use cases possible. And so we're not kind of limiting what people can do with the technology. And as Jorge said, like we're really trying to focus on where we're targeting so that we can ensure that we are able to execute on these use cases at the highest standard.
Sure. What are your main concerns right now technically when making this thing? What is the main issues you guys came across, or something that you think you might come across?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. I guess on a higher level, the most difficult thing on a higher level, one of the most challenging aspects of the project so far has just been all of the different pieces of software that it's bringing together. And so obviously the result is really positive, that it's creating this very powerful system that we have to work with, but sort of trying to reconcile the differences between how the EVM works, how Ethermint itself works, how the Cosmos stack works, and then making that all compatible with the existing Aragon software. I would say that has been the biggest challenge so far, and will likely continue to be something that is challenging for us. But at the same time, it's necessary in order to get this incredible functionality that we're aiming for. And it's also been a very rewarding process, and it's been really incredible to get to work with all these different technologies and bring them together. So it's a positive thing, but it's also definitely probably the single most difficult thing that we've had to work with so far.
Do you work with any other projects from the Cosmos ecosystem right now?
Well, ChainSafe built Ethermint last year, so.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, apart from Ethermint and Aragon, is there anyone else that, like, maybe Cover or Terra, whatever? There are quite a few.
No, it's just Ethermint and Aragon Chain so far.
Cool. Because I mean, there is a lot of projects the reason I'm asking, because for example, Foam, they are obviously, and Sentinel, they still work with Ethereum. And they are tokens are ERC20, so I was just wondering if maybe they are going to be using Ethermint. I mean, I presume they will be, but okay, we'll see. Sorry, Aidan, did you want to add something there?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing a lot of interest in Ethermint as a Cosmos SDK module, and are kind of talking to different projects about potential porting and or use of the EVM module. So it's been really incredible to see kind of this pioneering work, like inspire other projects to see what is possible. So that's been a real kind of pleasure to see that. And also in general, the work that we've done with Aragon has made Ethermint that much stronger in terms of just bringing in equivalent filters and just a lot of things that are necessary to do this kind of work. And so by being able to work together, we've also brought Ethermint as a Cosmos SDK module to a place where it's now much more usable than it ever was. And so the open source ramifications of this are still to be seen, but there seems to be an incredible amount of interest in Ethermint in general.
Then maybe I will ask a question to build up on what you said. Why did you guys go with Ethermint as the Cosmos module that you guys wanted to build? Why not anything else? I mean, you could have built whatever, I don't know, something else.
Yeah, so just to kind of talk about it, we very simply put, like I was hanging out with Ethan Buckman and I was asking him about Ethermint and how much we want to play around with it. And that's how this conversation started, where we build blockchains. And so it was a natural kind of progression. We work on other EVM-based chains and on other proof-of-stake Ethereum chains. And so this was obviously something that we naturally wanted to experiment with beyond just working on it, but also wanting to put it into action like we are today with Aragon Chain. So for us, it was a real natural process, and we're just kind of fortunate to have an incredible community here in Toronto where we can have conversations like that and can interact with people and learn about what they're doing and how we can contribute to their incredible work.
That's funny you say. We actually have a recording with Ethan, and I think next week. It should be next week, so it'll be good to... I want to ask him as well what he's excited about, which projects, because a lot of people are really excited about Aragon, and obviously it's been like one of the... a long-lasting project within the blockchain space. And a question to Jorge maybe here that I wanted to ask before as well. Making projects blockchain and running blockchain projects by ourselves, I know how difficult it is when you have to take care of the ecosystem of one particular blockchain and the users in that particular blockchain. So right now, obviously, you have Aragon, which is on Ethereum, and when that bridge is going to be up and running, when Aragon Chain is going to be up and running, obviously you're going to have not maybe twice as many users, but let's say just twice as many hustle taking care of the ecosystem on Aragon Chain and on Ethereum. Are you guys excited about that? Are you guys terrified of all the work that is going to come with it? Do you have any thoughts or ideas in regards to that?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I'm very, very excited to see. As you were saying, it's like something very, very, very different from running the system just on Ethereum. So yeah, more excited to see everything building up, and I guess we'll see some issues that we haven't had before, but I think those won't be big problems. And also the community that there will be around Aragon Chain with all the excitement, sure, also gonna take care of some of this.
Sure, because I think right now if somebody is coming to Aragon, you probably have tons of questions about Aragon Court and how to stake Anj or whatever. And I can only imagine the doubling or the tripling in questions. So how do I stake this token to get the other token on the other chain? Or how do I make this DAO to get with this agent to the other? You know what I'm saying? It'll be more and more complicated in terms of the interlayers that a person has to understand that those are two separate environments, that they are connected. But I assume that this will bring a lot of questions.
Yeah, with regards to the tokens, our Aragon Court is already kind of a proof of stake system. It's okay, people take their ANT, they convert it to this other token called ANJ, and they need to stake it. And even if the work is very, very different from the work that proof of stake validators do, there's already some of that knowledge that has been built from the supply side of the protocol. But yeah, for sure on the side of the end user, we will work hard on making it very, very simple for people to understand, just use their DAO and whatever environment it's better for them.
And what do you, this is a question I think maybe for, let's make it two separate questions. So the first question is, are you guys planning to, as soon as when Aragon Chain is ready, obviously you'll take some time to see how it works, you'll have the processes up and running. Are you guys planning to go further to other protocols, and here where maybe ChainSafe can help you to, let's say, have another Aragon Chain 2 on Polkadot or Aragon Chain 3 on another protocol and so on and so forth? Or is Cosmos and Ethereum are the only two networks that you guys planning to build on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for the foreseeable future, there will only be one Aragon Chain. But again, this is if someone in the Aragon community decides to do it and have another Aragon chain that is working on Polkadot, that's totally fine and totally plausible. I just think that focusing on having one chain running properly is already a pretty exciting and big undertaking. So at least from the side of our team, we're not thinking about having more than one Aragon chain for the time being.
Yeah, the more chains, the better. I'm kidding. And maybe this is a question to ChainSafe here. Are you guys, obviously you made that Cosmos SDK model in terms of Ethermint. Are you guys planning to do something like this for other protocols?
I believe there is some kind of EVM-based module that exists within Substrate. I'm not exactly sure. But I guess one of the things that is exciting here is really the RPC layer, and ensuring that the tooling is able to work across the different protocols. So yeah, I mean, we're always open to experimenting with new technologies. But yeah, definitely focusing on the Ethermint zone right now and getting that up and running, as well as obviously Aragon Chain first. Open to new opportunities, but very much focused on the 5-6 blockchains we're working on right now.
You said you're focused on 5 or 6 particular blockchains. I assume that is what, Substrate, Ethereum, Cosmos, or what else?
We have looked at things with Substrate before and are working on tooling surrounding it, but specifically our implementation of the Polkadot host, which is in Golang, which will eventually provide the capacity for developers to build parachains in Go, is a big focus of ours. And as much as possible, we want to bring that to production. And so that's kind of a big focus of ours within the Polkadot ecosystem. And we want to kind of further that development and bring that to a place of maturity before kind of looking at potential integrations and stuff like that. But outside of that, we're working on Filecoin, Ethereum Classic, ETH 2.0, Ethermint, obviously Aragon Chain, and the Polkadot host work. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on, and we're constantly starting new projects, but definitely a lot of these proof of stake chains need to get to a place of maturity before there is an ability to truly develop a lot of use cases that make sense just by having running networks. And so we're just really excited to get to a place where a lot more of our work is reaching a place of production and then kind of building from there.
Yeah, you said there a very good point. You pointed a very good thing about maturity and proof of stake. What do you guys' thoughts about how soon are we going to see proof of stake chains mature, at least to the extent of proof of work?
I mean, I personally think, it's just, we're there already. I mean, with things like the Cosmos Hub, it's just incredible to see what has been able to be done. So that for us is extremely exciting. We have a multi-client testnet in ETH 2.0. We have, Game of Zones going on. We had Kusama happening. We are still happening, and Polkadot coming soon, and so many other chains as well. So I really do think that the time is here and the time is now. More than anything, we just want to see more and more experimentation and more development across these ecosystems, and we'd love to be involved in that as much as possible.
Are you guys taking part in the Game of Zones anyhow?
We are not directly, no.
I know there is they're relaunching actually phase 1 now because there was some trouble with phase 1, but it looks like there was quite a big, I think there was like 140 teams or something like that joined, which was really, really cool and amazing to see.
It's the personal question, but what is your drive personally to do what you're doing? Obviously, you are going deep into technologies field and so on, but my question is, what is your driver? Why you go in there and spend a lot of time probably for that kind of development?
Well, yeah, I mean, simply put, our mission is to build the infrastructure for Web3. We want to build things that realize a new internet, an internet that's owned by the people, an internet that empowers people, and that puts power back in the hands of individuals. And so when we joined the Ethereum space, or at least learned about Ethereum way back when, it was really clear for us that for the first time in human history, we have a way to decentralize human organization to achieve common goals and common outputs. And so, yeah, it's really a matter of being able to contribute to that, because with open source technology, no one can stop you from contributing. And so seeing those things align and seeing the potential for, having to actually have a contribution to that shift in kind of human organization was something that, and is still something that, how could you not want to get involved?
Cool, thank you. It's very exciting. Jorge?
Yeah, for me, like more with regards to Aragon, more in general, I think it's been very interesting to see what people have been building with the tools that we've built. Like this very, very different organizations for very different purposes, but it's coming to a point now that we're focusing on these communities that haven't had the tools to organize up until now. I mean, they've had the tools to kind of like share information together or like have discussions, but something that we can do now is like actually give them the tools to take action in the same way that Web 1 kind of like gave a voice to everyone, and the ability to post something on the internet. Web 2 allowed these communities to start informing and around some shared interests or shared values. The super interesting thing about Web 3 and DAOs is that it allows these communities to actually take action, right? Being able to have these community economies that are kind of like whatever they want to design it to be, and with that take action to do whatever the community wants to do, be that building like a charity or doing an activist movement for whatever reason. So that's like the most exciting thing, just being able to give technology tools to these new communities and see what happens with that.
Sure, Colin.
There's just so much about this space that I love, but what really got me into it initially was just sort of learning about how we can use these new technologies to help empower members of society that were previously disenfranchised, and just expanding, sort of reimagining information and how it can be shared and how it can be used to empower people through these decentralized trustless systems is really what's the most inspiring thing for me. And the more I work within the industry and within the space, the more use cases for that I see, and the more amazing people I meet trying to do similar things. So for me, that's the number one biggest thing.
Yeah, thank you.
So going back to, you explained what kind of drove you to in terms of Aragon, but is there like a personal story behind how you got into the blockchain and what made you co-found Aragon, or anything you want to say about it?
When we started Aragon, we were kind of working on another company previously. It was called Patent, and we're like building a software to take down stupid patents that are used by patent trolls for that use them against people that are innovating with, just by having something similar in what they do to something that someone happened to patent a long time ago, or that someone happened to patent and then their company went bankrupt and someone bought the patent for pennies. Working on that was like kind of a very, very unjust problem that we were working on solving, and then something that we really wanted to build based on what our users were telling us is like, okay, we really want insurance here. Just like going after individual patents is like too much of a hassle. We just want to like be insured against this problem, and this is something that didn't exist. And seeing that's the moment that we started working on an insurance vehicle built on Ethereum. and seeing that potential to like build like a team of two people, build something like that in a way that worked. That was super powerful, but also made us consider that Ethereum was way more powerful than that, and that with this technology we could build basically any type of organization, not just insurance. And that was like the turning point and how Aragon got started. That was like one of the inputs there. There was also the fact that ours was a US-centric business, and we were at the time based in the US, and then we were there by the time that Donald Trump got elected, and that was also a big shock of something that we didn't expect happening, and that was kind of like an accelerate. We saw it as an accelerating force to the US not being the center of all of the world's innovation and value and economic growth. So that's also something that we kind of saw as a signal that, hey, the US may not be the biggest power in the world for forever. And also we saw this kind of an issue with that. It kind of saw some issues more broadly with democracy, that we thought that advancing in that field, building tools for allowing people to self-govern was something worth it to do.
Yeah, it's really very interesting. Could you highlight in 2 words maybe why everyone needs Aragon now in the world? Because obviously it's like a very powerful system, that it's Gartner thinks that DAO is just a beginning of the hype cycle. So why we need this? What is the core problem we can solve using Aragon DAO?
We'd be empowered to communicate through these tools they didn't have before. It's kind of, this is a very good quote from Joel Monegro from Placeholder, one of our investors, who said that an Aragon DAO is kind of like more than a Facebook group, but less than a company. So it's kind of there in that sweet spot of it's not, a DAO is like not a company that needs to incorporate and follow all the regulations and limitations that companies have, but it's also more than just like a group of people hanging out and discussing about something, right? Because it gives you some of the tools that you can have as a corporation in bringing people together, bringing capital together, and being able to basically organize for some purpose. So yeah, in 2 words, better tools for communities.
I have a controversial question this slightly for you. Talking about DAOs and foundations and jurisdictions, do you think that a DAO, regardless of what it does, okay, let's imagine for the sake of the conversation that a DAO is, I don't know, some blockchain project and it's a fund that is governing that project. Do you think that DAO needs to have foundation which has a real jurisdiction, or do you think it's much better for such things to be guided by code, and code is the law, and no jurisdiction, no CEO, good technology doesn't need. Well. Anyways, I don't want to put thoughts into your mind. I want to think. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that true DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, shouldn't need to be registered in any jurisdiction. You can have, basically, if you want to keep it like sufficiently decentralized, it kind of needs to be autonomous from that, so that the DAO is like fully sovereign. And then you can, of course, have things at the edges that allow you to interact with the land jurisdictions. I think if an organization is sufficiently decentralized, and that's like an important aspect, is this really sufficiently centralized? Are there like 1 or 2 people that are really pushing it forward, and without them it would stop? And that could be an indicator that DAO isn't really a DAO. But if a DAO is a sufficiently centralized community where there are no specific leaders or someone that is really needed for the thing to work, it's interesting not to be tied to any jurisdiction.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You said there that at the edges, a DAO could have some bridges to interact with land registries or whatever else. Do you think we will ever see a time where DAOs will not need those edges, where everything will come to the point where, we don't need to interact with a centralized registry anymore because the decentralized registries do the work that we need to be done, or will that time not come at our age?
I certainly hope we would see this. Like, I think this is something that will definitely start happening in some jurisdictions for sure. It's something that we will definitely see. It's probably something that would happen in a kind of jurisdiction by jurisdiction manner, and it wouldn't be something that happens from one day to the other globally. But if DAOs really become a strong force and something that drives a lot of value and that a lot of people are involved with them, like some jurisdictions will certainly start recognizing them and making sure that they can, for example, own property or things like that, because like otherwise you're kind of like removing like a big part of the economy from it. So I think we will certainly once DAOs start becoming.
Last question from me.
We usually ask about any project that inspired you. I mean, blockchain projects, yeah. But we discover mostly, and we speaking mostly about Cosmos ecosystem. Maybe you can say us a little bit about projects that inspire you recently and related with Aragon.
Absolutely. Let me see. There's always like an interesting question because like it's hard to know what to highlight. There's this super interesting DAO called One Hive, which is like one building technology, but what they really want to it's like foster this open source commons, and they have like tens of DAO members that just come together and they work together on projects. So that's pretty neat. Then there's this super interesting DAO that kind of related with the previous question. That is called XDAO, and it's a DAO formed by lawyers, by legal hackers. So they have their DAO and they're working on different projects such as like escrow contracts or like certifying certain things. So it's like very interesting to see like one profession like lawyers like building up a DAO and doing a bunch of cool stuff. Also love this DAO called Saint Fame, which started doing this concept of speculative fashion, which like they would launch a token that each unit of the token could be redeemed by for a physical piece of clothing. So the first one that they did was a shirt, and the second one was actually a mask. And it was super interesting to see like the DAO coming together, launching the DAO itself, launching the token, and then the DAO using like personal tokens via designer to like get the design done, and then the DAO voting on like what the design would be. And this was like fascinating because each token for that you could exchange for shirt, it's like at some point it was at $800. So I was like really fun to see. They're now building this company called Sora, and they launched a tape by a Grammy artist called Rack, and so it's like super interesting things. Yeah, there's interesting things going on DAOs such as Decentraland, which is like fascinating that they're using they basically gave control over their protocol and the land smart contract, which is a huge economy, and they gave control over that to an Aragon DAO controlled by their token holders.
Oh, cool. Thank you. And you mentioned masks and shirts. For me, it's like a pizza and Bitcoin. It could be for Aragon that masks that comes from real life during that unstable and uncertain times. So, and it's really nice. I like this kind of things.
Yeah, thanks, and definitely, I think everybody is excited, and thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing everything with us.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been super fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, guys. It's been great.
Hopefully we can join again soon when we're ready to kind of talk more directly on how the community can get involved in Aragon Chain.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for listening us. See you next time.